we're pleased to be joined by our final guest today, who is the Superintendent of the Walled Lake Consolidated School District, Kenneth Gutman. Once again, joins us on the Oakland County MegaCast. Superintendent Gutman, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Ronnie. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Yeah, good to have you on with us again since we've last spoken. How have you been? How's the team over at Walled Lake Schools doing?
The team is battered, but still moving on. It's been an interesting stretch. We want to do what's best for our children and our adults that work within our district. And sometimes that gets to be a little, controversial. But I will tell you this, we continue to be dedicated to all of our children. We want to make sure we have a building and a community and our schools that are safe for adults as well. We're doing everything we can to ensure that happens.
So Ken, the school district did finalize their plans for the fall semester. For those who are not familiar, or those who are just looking for a review of those plans or how they may have been modified since they were finalized, what is Walled Lake Schools going to look like in the fall semester for its K-12 education?
Well, I can talk about the first 10 weeks or so. The semester is yet to be determined. Our first card marking up until at least October 30th will be 100% online. So we do have a plan that had to go before our board. The plan had to include some online and some in-person options. After reviewing the plan, I did recommend to the board, they did accept that we did need to begin the year virtually for safety purposes and other reasons. And the reality is that we're going to offer the best options we can to our students during this time while still keeping everyone safe. So to be upfront, we need to get everybody back in school as soon as we can. We want that. But right now we are going to operate via the internet. So there are two options. There's what we call the R path, which is your teachers in their classrooms or teachers teaching from their classrooms or home. We haven't worked that out yet, but teachers teaching students, classes of students. Then there's the My Path. So the My Path is more asynchronous. Students are not sitting in front of the computer 6 hours a day. They're working independently. And they have one of our teachers who's serving as a mentor and an advisor throughout this. So two options. The second one allows more flexibility. The first one more closely replicates school to the degree you'll be able to do that online.
So is it up to the parents to decide which one is best for them, or is it by grade?
It's to parents to decide. So the default is the R path. The R path is the regular instruction. But those who feel like, listen, I can't have my child in front of the computer that long during the day, or we work or we have other needs, we need something that's a little bit more flexible, they can opt into the My Path.
Kenneth Gutman with us. He's the superintendent of the Walled Lake Consolidated School District with us on the Oakland County MegaCast. And Ken, as we continue to approach the fall semester and with the plans for the first 10 weeks of learning, as you said, in Walled Lake to be entirely virtual across the district, that brings up the question of the technology gap. Obviously, that had to be bridged to some extent or mitigated to some extent in March when we first got into this pandemic. You've had some time now to adjust to the reality that that virtual learning may be the case in the fall. For families that have previously not had access to those technologies or access to the internet, what has the school district been able to do to help provide for them as we are approaching the fall semester where those first many weeks are going to be virtual?
That's a really good question. So we began, as you know, Tyler, we've talked about this a little bit, but we turned over in a weekend. We ended up within a couple of weeks after we began our online instruction in March, giving out thousands of Chromebooks. We had a pickup and a delivery system. We did Chromebooks. We've continued to order more Chromebooks over the summer as we recognize we'll definitely need more. We're going to have a Chromebook distribution day. We're also looking at hotspots for families who need those. We believe we'll be able to have those all set for people. And then we're also looking at some areas like some clubhouses of some apartment complexes where we may be able to put in a hotspot to make sure there's internet coverage for everyone. We recognize that we're blessed in this community that we've had a significant number of people able to access the curriculum. We felt we actually found we were somewhere in the mid-90s, but if we're missing one child, we're missing a lot. So we want to make as many opportunities as we can available for our students to have access to our curriculum, and we're going to do that before we open.
So school account day is so important for the funding. How in the world is that going to work?
Bonnie, you want to tell me? That would be great. Can I turn it around and ask you? I don't have any idea how we'll do a count day. We'll take attendance in all of our online courses. So there's that. But, how do you measure whether you've had 75% attendance to count the day as we've done in the past? Our state superintendent, Dr. Michael Rice, has been outspoken about the fact that we need to adjust this. I understand our legislature will be considering this, among other things, this Saturday in a rare weekend legislative session. We look for direction on that as well. Attendance looks very different online.
So speaking of that, other than addressing this issue of attendance, what do you hope to see come out of Saturday's session?
Well, I don't know that they're going to touch this, but and not to appear to be sarcastic, but to be sarcastic, it's August 12th and our budget year started July 1st. So I'm hoping maybe a budget or something to let us know how much money we actually have to spend this year. Our needs are greater and we don't know how much money we have. That's a travesty. So that would be really helpful. And then in terms of flexibility with things like attendance, with clock hours, with the number of days, the types of things that we really do need to know to make sure that we're in compliance in addition to providing the very best education we can.
Ken Gutman with us. He is the superintendent of the Walled Lake Consolidated School District with us on the Oakland County Megacast network of community television, radio, and other media outlets, including today the Facebook page of the Walled Lake Consolidated School District via Facebook Live. And, of course, thank them for being with us for the entirety of our program today. So as we're approaching the fall, and one of the hallmarks of the fall in the state of Michigan and all throughout the country is fall sports such as football. And, of course, the Big Ten announced yesterday that they are suspending their 2020 fall sports, all fall sports. Similarly, that had happened in the Mid-American Conference last week. It happened in a couple other major conferences. The GLIAC today announced that they are canceling their fall sports season or postponing them until January. That includes universities such as Wayne State. The MHSAA says they're going to wait until August 20th to make any decision on fall sports, but school to school, those decisions can still be made individually. Any thoughts on that from Walled Lake's angle? Any chance that you may decide to forego fall sports due to COVID-19?
We're weighing those options right now. We certainly don't want to deprive our children of an opportunity to participate in athletics. At the same time, with safety being our primary focus and with us not having face-to-face instruction for those reasons, we have a lot to think about. The Big Ten canceling, I think, may influence the MHSAA. I know my beloved Spartans not playing will be a disappointment, but then again, safety first, right? So have we made a decision yet to do something individually? We have not. We're talking about what to do. We do look to the MHSAA for direction as well. I know they want to play. I know the Big Ten has moved football or moved to spring. I think they're looking at other sports as well. I'm wondering if the MHSAA will end up considering that. And we want to do what's best for our kids as long as we can keep them safe.
So as we go back to school, two other areas that were exposed as problems for some of these kids. Number one, childcare, and number two, food. A lot of families and a lot of kids rely on the lunch program for a healthy meal. Any plans to address those two issues for the fall?
Childcare is the tricky one, so let me handle that first. We're talking about what to do in terms of providing childcare, and at the same time, I'm still concerned about staffing it. Staffing childcare, and from my conversations with those around the county and the state, that's what they struggle with. How do you staff childcare, guarantee that children would be safe, and guarantee that staff would be safe in that environment? We're talking about that. We haven't resolved that. Meals we've resolved. We did a really nice job. Our food services department, we had board members volunteering. We had staff members and parents volunteering to get meals out. We delivered, I want to say, a couple 100,000 meals over a couple of months. We had pickup lines at two of our high schools. Well, we understand that the meal delivery or meal service will be required, and as it should be, for anyone within our district who's virtual. So should that be the case, and we're waiting for a final determination from the state, that would be 2 meals a day, 5 days a week, and potentially 7 days a week. We won't let our families go hungry. We won't let our kids go hungry. We're committed to doing that, even if we don't get that kind of direction from the state.
Kenneth Gutman with us. He is the superintendent of the Walled Lake Consolidated School District, with us on the Oakland County megacast across the local area. And Ken, the Oakland County Health Department, Oakland schools have both been hard at work in partnership with our local school districts to prepare for the fall, including providing school nurses to many of our local school districts who are able to utilize that personnel in their own ways tailored to the needs of the school district. Any talks in your school district about how you will utilize the aid from Oakland County and Oakland schools for this nursing program?
That's really good timing. Thank you, because I did talk to our deputy county executive about that this morning. Even though we'll be virtual, we're going to begin with using our nurses to help us plan protocols and thresholds for when we do return, to act as a liaison with the Oakland County Health Department, to communicate with parents, to work with our principals and administrative staff in terms of how to handle situations as they occur when we do return face to face. We'll have 3 nurses allocated to us, and we're grateful to Oakland County, the Oakland County Health Department for providing those for us. 3 nurses, 19 schools. We won't have complete coverage, obviously, but to help as an advisor, to help inform our decisions. We're educators. We are not medical professionals. So to have the availability of medical professionals to help guide our thinking will be a big advantage for us and for other districts across the county.
Ken, as we're approaching the fall, just a couple of weeks out, any potential for changes to the current plans in place? We've seen other school districts that have modified their plans multiple times in the last few weeks, or are the plans for fall in Walled Lake pretty set in stone?
We're set to go virtual for the first 10 weeks up until at least October 30th, but how we do virtual is always subject to being tweaked. We did add that our path, my path, yesterday. We released that to our community. We'll be answering questions. We're doing our parent information sessions. So we want to make sure we get information out to our parents as we do make adjustments. We certainly want to be nimble and be able to pivot quickly to make sure we're providing the best for our students. We think we have a good plan for return, but we'll tweak that quite a bit too before we do return with the latest information that we have in terms of what's going on with COVID and also what's going on with our facilities. We want to make sure that we don't put a plan in stone and say, here's where we're going for the next 20 weeks, when it may not be the best with the information we get at the time.
Ken, just another few minutes before we have to let you go. A couple more questions. I'll give them both to you right now. What message do you have as we're approaching those last couple weeks and we're about to return to school? What message do you have for the students as they prepare to return, and what message do you have for their parents and their families as they prepare to return to learning?
Yeah, so let me just in general say this to both. We love you and we want you back, and we look forward to you being back in our classrooms and having what we used to think was a normal school experience. We're so proud of the community we have here in Walled Lake, and we know they're supportive of education. At the same time, we can bemoan our fate. We can all be upset and mourn the fact that we don't have what we had last year at this time. But the ideal is to make this the very best educational experience we can with what we have. We are not broken. We are rebuilding, and we are making ourselves stronger, and that'll take a full community effort. I would also say that I know with my own children, they'll follow my lead. And so I would ask everyone to please be a positive example for your children, that we make the very best of a bad situation. Nobody asked for us to go through a pandemic. Nobody in the schools wanted to have a pandemic. We want to make sure that we provide our children with the best we can, with the information and resources that we have. And we want to make sure that we're in partnership with our parents and community. And we want to get our kids back as soon as we can.
Okay, Ken, I have a very important question that I'm sure all the students want to know the answer to.
Yeah.
Can they wear their pajama bottoms while they're doing their Zoom classrooms?
As long as the camera stays above the waist, we're good, Ronnie. I think most people have, or a lot of people have done meetings in sports coats and shirts and shorts or whatever. So yeah, I think that would be just fine. Let's keep the camera up high.
Well, we appreciate having you on today, Ken.
Yeah, always a pleasure. Thank you.